I'd like to bring to order the commission meeting of the meeting of the Franklin Tourism Commission, and start this evening by taking roll. Jeff Kadersky is absent with notice. Approved. Barbara Wesner?
Here.
Mark Wiley?
Here.
All right. Will you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? We're going to fly here.
Oh, they moved.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It is a minute or so after 6, and I'd like to open up the citizen comment period. I don't know that we really have any. It's citizen comment period. All right. Seeing no citizens present for comment, I'd like to close the citizen comment period and move on to the approval, review and approval of our meeting minutes from the September 16th meeting. The draft of which is in the packet, commission members.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
And I will second.
Oh, sorry. We're going to write document here. All right, so I've got a motion by Mark Wiley and a second by Barbara Wesner to approve the minutes. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Draft minutes are approved. Under reports this evening, we are honored to have Danielle Brown here to talk with us about the hotel tax revenue flow. Can I
Yes.
turn that over to you?
Yes. So, hello, everybody. Hi, guys. I was asked to come here to present a little bit of information as far as how the revenue comes into the city of Franklin and how it gets distributed. So, I put a little thing together, and you guys can let you see it. So it's basically just like a one-pager that talks about the process itself, and then I'll open it up to questions. So just to start off, Finance Department is responsible for receipting of all the checks that we receive from the hotels. We're responsible for auditing and the financial spreadsheets that we keep for our auditors, and then just monitoring the dollars that come in. The clerk's office is the one that is responsible for maintaining all the room tax documents, the quarterly reports. They send out invoices to the hotels that provide payments late, and then they provide notices to the room tax entities that are not complying. So we do receive room tax quarterly. I put the dates there. They are responsible for submitting their quarterly reports, their sales tax report, and then their room tax check to the city no later than 30 days after the end of the quarter. And then the room tax amount is 8%. So from a financial standpoint, I wanted to just let you guys know what happens after the reports come in, after the clerk's office gets the check and the reports. They submit that information to Treasury. Treasury receipts it. In about the beginning of May, we take a look at all of the room tax that was received in the first quarter, because that typically gets allocated back into the previous year. And so then beginning in August, we usually start monitoring all the room tax collection, because they have until July 30th to make their quarter 2 payment, if that makes sense. So we receive payments for quarter 1 all the way through April, but anything that is for quarter 4 to the previous year. After the city receives their 30% of the total room tax allocation, that's when we start transferring of the funds from general fund to the tourism fund. And then from there, typically whenever we see a transfer, I know that I was a little late this year, and so I apologize, but that voucher should come to the Tourism Commission for approval to be paid to Engage Franklin for their 75% share. So that's typically how it works. So if you guys have any questions or any, yeah.
My question would be just a question. In my experience, a lot of contract commission versus directly have the best practice 70-30 at that grade like we're right now. That each quarter it's separated and divided 70-30, so that the contract with the DMO through the commission have a regular cash flow or basically anticipated revenue, so that they can budget accordingly to be active all year. That's something that we could consider versus having the city retain its 30% first and then pay it on the back end of the year each time, so that we can just have more forecastable revenues in order to stay active. That's just imagine on behalf of.
Okay, so to piggyback off that, I know that there has been some consideration of that I've mentioned in the past, because from a previous municipality that I worked at, that's how we did it. So it was, something different for me when I came here, seeing that the city retained its full amount first and then transferred. And I think that may have been because there wasn't a DMO in place at the time.
I think it was because they started collecting those room taxes before whatever it was, December 15th or whatever, 2015, the magic date when everything.
Yeah, the grandfather clause. So
yeah,
previously it was a 151.9 that was
yep.
retained, so it was a lump amount. I understand why they would retain that lump amount first, because we were coming out of a pandemic and like, are we going to get to that lump amount?
Right.
I totally get it. But right now we're forecasting, be at the 70-30, and I think that obviously all assume that will come into play outside of some act of God, right? So in that scenario with some kind of force majeure clause or something, I was hoping that we could achieve that quarterly split.
Yep, so I am, certainly up to you guys, but I am fine either way. It's no real additional work from the financial side of it. And to your point, a few years ago when we were really struggling to even reach the percentage, I can see that. But now, and I provided in here, you guys are more than welcome to look at it, the second page. This is just a projected through 2030. You can see there's absolutely no reason that we shouldn't hit. Yeah.
And I was wondering, Danielle, if just based on the RNC this year, how things are looking based on your receipts, what you've been paid for the first 2 quarters.
Mm-hmm. So
now there's the third quarter
guys,
due. Do you think this is the year that we actually exceed the, that there might be, that the city might actually get more than the 151,894?
Yep, this is the first year.
You think that'll happen that by the end of the year?
Yeah, not by much, but you'll see there, the 153, 180, that's the anticipated 30% based on the higher projected expected revenues. So just a tiny bit more, a couple extra $1,000, but again, we anticipate seeing it. We've already hit it as of August. We've received about 200. I put it in here again. It's on the last page. We've received 200, almost 240,000 for quarter 1 and 2. So.
Okay. So this one that's highlighted in yellow, though, is that what you're anticipating for all of receipts from all of 2025?
Yep. So I'm expecting the roughly 510,000 overall. 153 would be retained by the city. The 357 and anything above that would go to the tourism.
So you're not okay. So right now, I see for 2024, it looks like our estimate was 495.7, right?
Correct. Yep.
You're saying no, it's going to be over 500 just in 2024.
Correct.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, like I said, for quarter 2, if you go to the last page, the last page, you'll see by each hotel, and then I did quarter 1 and quarter 2, so almost everybody has paid, and we're already at 240, so I'm projecting, the 480 to 500,000 for year end.
Yeah.
One more note on the top.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also for and just for general knowledge. Well, I know you're, but just to tie a portion of the conversation that in our contracting with the commission, part of the over the which is a significant, of a budget to make that responsibility ability. So the quarterly payment, the quarterly split would also really help us to make it active so that when we can pay that bill time, our obligation. And then obviously on top of that, come up with a structure that we can maintain active, throughout the year and not have to like backfill that large bill of ours, at the end of the year and then see what we have left. Trust. Achieve our mission of.
I had a note here. Is there a final contract now for the naming rights? Okay, and then what are the due dates on when you guys have to make those payments to them?
Our first, I'm not looking at it, but I know that we're past due on the first half right now.
Okay, because I was trying to look it up and I just couldn't find it before we got here.
I think it
but we
was,
can
I think
have
it was
it
set
then.
up as August.
Yeah.
When your payment was, your
There you
first
go.
payment.
Yeah, you got, there's like 3/4 of it. There's a certain percentage and then the final percentage was in December.
We've been invoiced for half and half.
I thought it
That's
was,
how we ended up getting
when
invoiced.
we were doing it, it was half and half, and our payment, our first one was due July 31st, and the
Yep.
second one December 31st.
Right.
And I think when we did the contract, like for this, for you taking it over, it was August and still half and half.
Yeah. So we're technically past due, although there's that still recording
Right.
that we're all of it. We've been kind enough that way. We just
Okay, so moving forward, I don't know if you have sort of motion you have to do, or
I was going
you
to
can
say,
just-
would it
I mean,
a
but I,
motion from the Tourism Commission to request that at each quarter, that we just do that 70-30 split?
Yep.
Would that be
that
what
would
you'd need
suffice,
to?
yep.
You think this gives Darryl all the information he was looking for?
And
I think it's more information than what he had before.
it's absolutely
So,
more
yeah.
information than we had, so thank you for that.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I didn't know how much you guys have received, so I just put in, the forecasted for the next few years, and then 2019 to now what we're at, so.
And with this, what we can do is work out a 2025 budget, and assuming this all, expires, we can work up a really accurate, conservatively accurate 2025 budget so that you guys can see our scope of activity.
So I do have a question on this, and it's more for Engage Franklin. So I'm looking at this report, and it does get granular down to the hotel level. And all you have to do is some simple math, and you can determine what the actual room revenue receipts are for a hotel. That's information that I can say on behalf of the Hampton Inn and Suites, Milwaukee Franklin, we're okay with the city having, and maybe board members of Engage Franklin, maybe. I have to give that some thought. But so you're looking at some information now that I'm not so sure I'd like you to take out of this meeting, to be honest with you.
Moving
My
forward, we're
request
comfortable with
is
aggregate
You
information.
keep the top 2 pages and I will walk around right now and collect the bottom
That works.
pages.
So I
And then
guess,
we can decide.
is
what-
there a concern? Can you just explain that?
We
Because
could lose our authorization.
well, I looked up the statute, and it's the only thing that it says you can't provide is ownership information. You can provide hotel name.
I guess maybe we should
But not
talk.
with the revenues.
Okay, well, like I said, I pulled it up, but I'm not going to argue with you.
I mean, if
That's-
there's
yep.
consent of, I think, the owners and
Yep.
county, it's just been sort of a practice that is
And that's fair,
information
too.
when developers are trying to figure out who's making what,
I
what's
know.
happening, they now have with information like
I
this.
know in the past, we've kept that information confidential.
Yes, we
And I know particularly one of the owners was very concerned about that.
Yeah. So I,
Mhm.
Not yours, but.
yeah. So
I'm comfortable speaking on behalf of my experience that the PMO can operate well with aggregate information. We can, as long as we know the full amount,
Yeah.
we can operate, fulfill our obligation.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
this page gives you what you need for the budget.
And I'm happy to at least, go back and just take the hotel names out of there, so you can still see by quarter how it is.
I appreciate it.
Right. So if I could
Okay.
just get those pages back with the names on it.
Although Danielle, this is
From us
good
too?
because one of
Yes.
the questions I had
Yes.
for you was whether you were receiving any receipts from Expedia, Priceline, some of the OTAs. And it looks like they are sending you some
Yes.
dollars.
It's just
Remember,
hard
I
to
got in big
manage.
trouble.
Right, so
Because
I
they don't
recall
tell
that.
us exactly where these locations are located.
they don't.
No.
The bottom page.
Sure.
You can talk to.
Right?
Thank you.
Because I wonder how we. I wish I could tell you I trust the OTAs
Right.
to accurately report what they're doing, but I just wonder how we reconcile that. Because the way that some hoteliers now are treating this is, well, the way they are treating it is they know that Priceline, for example, is collecting the tax. So when the guest stays in Franklin, stays with the hotel does not collect tax on that. And it shows up on the ST12 form that we fill out and what we submit to the city of Franklin as one of those tax exempt stays.
Yep.
You know, and in this case, instead of having a certificate or staying more than 30 days, falls under the category of an online travel agency is submitting it.
Yep.
But we don't really. I'd like to know that that you actually, the city's getting its full share of room tax, right? That's getting that full 8%. And I'm not sure what the answer is to reconciling that. I'm just thinking of the reporting we could do or a hotel could do to tell you reservations where it's not collecting the tax because it's an online travel agent, it's a Priceline, Expedia, Booking.com type reservation. But I just don't want. I'd love to know if the city's getting the room tax that they should
I
be
can
getting.
look into that. Yep.
So it's good to see though that I thought Priceline was
There's
on
some
there,
on here,
and I
yeah.
saw a few bucks from Priceline. And I will say, I mean, speaking of just about one property in town here, that on a weekend, the amount of reservations that are not subject to, we're not collecting tax on, is over $1,000, room revenue. So, $1,300 on a Friday night could be $1,000. That's just one hotel, and then take that times 8%. So it didn't seem like the number I saw in there was very high.
No.
When I think of how big a chunk, and it's probably not so much for the independents, but now for the branded hotels like the Staybridge, the Mainstay Sleep combination, and the Hampton, it's probably some, room charges that they're collecting. I'm just putting it out there, and that's, like I said, I wonder if there's best practices from other cities on how they track that. What kind of information they can get, from these entities.
Well, like I said, I can reach out to a couple different ones.
And we could, and what I could ask, like Jeff Klinlam to do is, if he can we can run and let the city know at least what online travel agencies we're dealing with, right? That we know have collected room tax that we didn't collect, and at least give you a heads up as to the entities that are involved.
Yeah.
I can't say they're going to be all of them, but.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and that would be helpful too.
So as far as this idea of a motion, what do you think here as far as trying to craft something tonight, or do we put that on the agenda for November and get after November's meeting for new business? Thoughts on that?
Well, I'm curious about when this would be effective, and how do we take care of our obligations we have right now, and then when does it kick in?
So we have the end of this month, October 31st, is when hotels have to submit their room tax for the quarter that ended September 30th. So there will be shortly, well, probably about the time we meet in November, you'll be pulling together, right, dollars from the third quarter.
I can tell you as of today, I haven't received quarter dollars yet.
So, and that we know that traditionally, and we're still in that phase this year, you've settled up, you've waited till, you get to the fourth quarter, and then into the new year, you look at the whole year and say, we took in 400,000, here's our 151, here's what's left, and we paid you out this, so what we owe you is this.
Right.
And I would expect that would happen still in 2024 here, because we've been operating, we're going to have to true up still, right, for
You have
2024.
Yes. So you have a voucher on here to in your packet to pay out
Right.
for first and second quarter.
But what would be helpful if we did talk about this in November and did something, we'd have it in place for the fourth quarter of 2024, which we could certainly, when that's paid in the first part of the year, February, I'm guessing, maybe, that we could do the 70-30 split, and then there's probably still be another transaction where you get the final numbers for 2024, and you look at what's been paid out, and you go, still
Yeah, I
another
mean, it's
X
just
number
a
of
lot of
dollars,
true
right?
up on my end, but again, I'm content either way. It's no hassle, so.
Yeah, well, whatever works for you, but I guess we could move forward with a motion then at the next meeting where
Yep.
we at least put in place the 70-30 payout system.
Yep, so then anything after, any collections after that, absolutely, I would split it. And
But then, so that means April 30th would be when everything catches up.
no, if you put it into place in November, I mean, it's,
I mean, as far as reconciling fourth quarter versus when things come in.
yeah, around March-ish
That's because you're just waiting for these hotels
to pay, yeah.
either pay or determine, well, we're not going to get our money real quick and we're just going to move on. And
But if we're gonna do a 70-30 split instead of the city waiting, waiting until we collect our amount, I mean, we can do that on a monthly basis, because it all just depends as to when we payment. I mean, I can provide a voucher every month to the Tourism Commission if there's any funds that need to be split anytime, I'm just saying, probably the first week of the month I could do that, is by looking at what we received for the month before, split it 70-30, and then provide you guys a voucher at your meeting. That's probably the easiest way instead of waiting on a quarterly basis, because sometimes we do get a late payment in the middle of the quarter, and it would just probably help you guys out rather than waiting each quarter. And
so what do you think, John? Could we put this down as an agenda?
I need to, well, if you do want a motion today, I need to back away from that because of the relationship I have with them, with Engage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if Barbara wanted to make that motion tonight, but there's only the two of you.
Yeah, well, what I'm thinking is not so much a motion, but we just decided to tackle this as a business maybe in the November meeting.
Yeah,
And then
I
we
agree.
could
that makes
make
sense.
a motion.
Mhm.
And
And then it's
you
published.
certainly
and
know
everything.
that you can report back to Daryl that that's the direction we're going to go.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you for putting all this together.
Yeah, of course.
Great.
Yeah.
Anything else that we know or?
No, like I said, not unless you guys have any other questions, so we'll just move forward with that then. And like I said, you guys, as long as it's approved tonight, in the next week or two, we'll get the check. So, of course. And then I'll just email. I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Brandon.
So I got your message.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll go back and just like I said, take out the hotels, but I'll submit you guys that quarterly information so you know. Yep, no problem. Anything else from me? I get to go home now. I had a late night last night, so. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you guys, and always reach out if you have any questions.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving along to report from Engage Franklin and Mark.
Yep, so we had a board meeting 2 nights ago, Monday, October 15th. The key things there, we have a signed contract for the next year's Greater Milwaukee Golf Show. Brandon is continuing to work on Snowvana, and that could happen November 2025. We did decide not.
Snowvana is, I'm sorry,
So,
is that the
Like a ski
sculpting?
spot.
Oh, okay.
it's
we did decide not to pursue the snow sculpting event. There's a lot of weird information flowing back and forth, and we just said we're pulling back. That's not going to happen. It may happen next year. We can revisit it. But, we have been discussing, and Brandon continues to discuss a partnership agreement with UWM, and there's been some back and forth there, but that's going to continue on. There's no set direction yet. Brandon's putting together plans for a possible pickleball tournament, and as I came in today, I saw the pickleball courts over here are full. So
Yeah.
he's looking at that for 2026. And we decided to put Brandon on full-time. He's been on a part-time basis. And with doing that, we decided to add Laura to the board of directors. So that, I think that fills out our board. Yeah. So Engage Franklin has not prepared a budget yet, but we needed to confirm the cash flow, and I think this stuff will help that. And there was some discussion about we're within the realms of the contract, and so not anything to enforce in terms of them not having a budget yet, because we've not given them a lot of information. So, anything to add? I just went through Daryl's minutes and.
But I can confidently say that we'll have a working budget for 25 by your next.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah, as Laura said, that there's two things that they're teeing up to pay. One is the first payment for the naming rights. The second one is, remember there was discussion about what the startup cost was for Engage Franklin, and they're teeing up how to pay that. And I think there's money there. There's money in their budget to cover that.
Visitor guide.
Right.
So, like a table of contents, cover photos, hoping right next to our
And I'll speak more about that when we get to the grant program too,
Okay.
because there's some overlap there.
I have a question. What is the status of, because it was highly successful last year, of the Enchant Festival? Give us an update on that.
I don't have the intimate knowledge I did of it last year due to my employment circumstances changing. I don't know if you have any.
Swan.
I know they've been promoting it and advertising it. I get an email like 2 times a week.
Yeah.
And
They've been promoting it. I contacted it as well. It was ways and stuff.
We had a unique insight last year, because I was quarterbacking
Right.
while training. So I don't.
So what is that? And I guess that's really my question. So what is the role now with Engage Franklin and Enchant? Meaning, I realize it's a private event hosted on Ballpark Commons grounds. But what has been the interaction Engage Franklin has had with Rock Ventures or whoever's officially, what entities officially handling that? Have they reached out to Engage Franklin for marketing and promo? Are they, share any? Are they asking the?
It was very. I met with Andrew with that. Kind of just said it would go some good ways and then promote it stuff like that. I think until.
A lot of cross promotion. So similar to how we would approach any other event taking place.
Yeah.
The extra care and attention last year was now we will always initiate and have the conversation as Brandon did and be as involved as the event owner wants us to be.
Yeah.
And so to that extent, he's doing cross promotion social. We are getting some tickets so that we can, some giveaways and stuff. But yeah, we'll always be as involved in events like us.
Like, okay. And Andrew is the person at
Rocky.
Rock that's handling
He's
the.
in partnership. Yeah.
Yeah. What's Andrew's last name?
Park.
The other thing I wanted to mention, I just put it out there, is that I think in not the last meeting, not in attendance, but the meeting before, I had mentioned that I could at least determine whether I could get some information on the snow sculpting event, and I just want to share, since the two of you are here, that I did talk to my brother, who was the executive director of Visit Lake Geneva, and talked to him about that event, and said, yeah, very good, Lake Geneva area. And he said, we ran it as an event. So he said, you have to decide whether you're going to get into events, because that's what they did. And they embraced that. So, I can tell you that as you're evaluating that, and I was glad to hear that, that we'll re-engage and we'll look at 2026. I can tell you we have some resources if you want to use them to determine how Lake Geneva was impacted by that event, what they did, the kind of revenues they took in from it. And my brother wasn't even so sure that to my mind, it's not like Lake Geneva was looking to give it up necessarily. So he was wondering why this group was, shopping it around a little bit.
Aren't they still doing something though?
Lake Geneva is hosting their own sculpting event,
They're doing their own
so
thing.
they've obviously developed a relationship with since they have been so active in the planning of the event, they feel very confident that they themselves can pull it off without the bid fee that they would have to pay for in order to have a person give it the name of the National Snow Sculpting Championship. So with part of the outlay was a $30,000 payment to Snow Fund in order to just be a part of the situation. They probably peek at that and say, feel confident we've been doing it on, we've been involved enough at this point that we don't need to pay that $30,000 in order to execute what happened. That's however. And the outlay, not to say it's not worth it, right? But we're not in a position of organization. And of course, we would look into ways to make money, to create revenue opportunities through the event. We didn't feel like we had, number one, this funding conversation in a place that we should be committing to something that large, which would be, if we were to do it right, an outlay of dollars and in kind of $5, but a budget of about $75,000. Right. So we obviously aren't there yet, and we also didn't have the time to do sponsorships or partnerships for it in order to appropriately this year. And in addition to that, it was a big ask for our hotel community that we would have to. They wanted all hotel rooms. We don't want to be that especially at the beginning. There
was a lot of loose ends. Just didn't feel comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And so what I'm hearing then is that what this could be is Lake Geneva retains some sort of event with snow sculptors that are visiting, and so then there may be probably only snow sculptors out there.
Right.
There may be some competition for if you get involved in this, you'd have to evaluate who's actually going to participate, right?
The difference would be that ours is a sanctioned event that produces winners that want to compete at World, right? So that's the main difference, I think, is that we're seeing it more of a sporting competition that has restrictions of judging things, whereas they've taken it on as a form of entertainment to our winter.
Okay. Right. Okay. Another question I had is, it's a further agenda item down here I see on our list under unfinished business is Franklin Livestock Publication discussion. So while I have, again, the two of you here and Mark.
And that's what I wanted to get to.
You'll get to that, okay.
Well, no, we can do it now if it's okay to
well, whatever is appropriate, whatever input, if you want to just talk about it, we can move on and just wait until we get here. But I was going to ask, really, basically, if you've been approached by this, Franklin Livestock, looked at it through an Engage Franklin.
I don't think you've been approached. I did it at our last board meeting, at our last commission meeting. I did say that I thought there was a lot of similarity between what Brandon's doing with the visitor guide and what she intends to do. Now, the visitor guide is more set up for visitors. Hers is more set up for residents of the city. But I think there's a lot of commonality there that doesn't necessarily need to be duplicated.
Yeah.
And that's where I've left it. I think there's room that Brandon and Engage could work with her, or she could work with Engage, but I don't know what shape that would take.
So we can pick up that discussion when we get to unfinished.
Okay.
Is there anything that the two of you wanted to weigh in on that, or that's?
I don't know if I have enough background on it to weigh in intelligently.
Okay.
So I'll just wait for Mark to
All right.
give me the information.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Well, anything else then from Engage Franklin?
Question, what was the pickleball court project or effort?
Pickleball tournament. So
Oh, tournament, okay.
yeah, it'll be a pickleball tournament. I want to do a winter more activity. It'll be indoor. I have a Milwaukee Sports Complex. I reach back out. I've also Josh as well. I believe in my knowledge.
But he is talking about doing it as like a multi-day event,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so a true tournament.
Producing overnight stays,
Overnight
people
stays.
from around the
People
country.
coming. Have like a
The rec department also holds pickleball at their middle school. So there are
At the middle school?
At the middle school, there are at least 9 courts
Really?
set up. Really? And there.
good venue.
So that,
Interesting.
however, I'm not sure, they can make the kind of commitment that you're looking for,
Yeah.
but possibly
So the rec
Yeah.
department.
Good news.
through the rec department,
All right,
yes.
Okay.
I'll
All right, thank you both.
Thank
All right,
you.
Thank you, Mark.
Good evening.
I guess.
Thanks, Brandon, thanks, Laura.
Good, thank you
Yeah.
guys.
Okay, moving on to unfinished business and the banner bracket proposal.
Yeah, still waiting on the superintendent to give us some data, and I probably will, well, I'll check in and see if I shouldn't just put the question to the council, say what
Okay. So is, in your mind, just kind of knowing the schedule and I've been talking with the company, would they be able to do any sort of, have we gone beyond the point of bracket install for 2024?
not really.
Or we could still fit that in maybe?
Because thing is you're putting the brackets on light pole, not pouring any concrete, you're not
Right.
doing anything, putting up brackets.
Yeah. Pretty much anytime. So we're just waiting on the
Yeah.
common council to give some, or the,
In the mayor.
in the mayor.
So I'll
Okay.
check with him here this coming, figure out, take it to November 16th.
All right. All right, moving on to the grant program. Excuse me, we've got a couple of items, the Operation Soccer Club, Franklin Livestock. So in the packet, we have the application from Croatian Eagle Soccer Club, their request for funding. And I just open it up to time Commissioner had to review the application and thoughts.
I think they did a very thorough job of documenting what they've asked for. They did a lot of work putting this together. And it's nice to see this as a model for other people that want to come in and ask for
Yeah.
money, I think. And it's nice to see this schedule. That's my initial thought. You weren't here last meeting. They did a very nice presentation in terms of what they're looking for and what the potential is for overnight stays from tournaments that they do.
I was wondering if the two of you could talk to that a little bit. But I wasn't sure. What were your impressions? What did you, when you left here after Kristen? How an improvement in the field of play would translate into, just after listening to the presentation.
My sense of it is that it would give them the draw for other teams to come here and feel like they're playing on a more competitive facility than what they have right now. It would extend their, they talk about it, it would extend their season. It would give them more draw, they say international tournaments. I'd like to see, I don't recall that they said who internationally is coming, but it would open the range for other age groups. Talk about the people that come are not just the kids that are playing soccer, but the parents, which would be overnight stays because a lot of them are coming from not just the local area, coming from other states, and the tournaments are multi-days, so there would be hotel stays along with restaurants.
I think that international tournament,
Was it Canada?
they're Croatian. I thought it was that.
Oh, could be, yeah.
Because every fall they have it, and that's when they have that Croatian soccer. We'll ask.
But as far as the white turf as opposed to grass, it's going to be easier to maintain.
And they'll spend less money leasing facilities.
Right. It'll drain faster, so they'll be able to use it year round as opposed to just when the field is dry.
Right.
So it would be a field much like what we have at Ballpark Commons at the Milkman. Well, actually, at all the fields there.
Will it be somewhat like the indoor field that have at the Bosch? That's
Could be.
indoor soccer.
Could be. Yeah.
Turf seems a little long in that one, but just
Yeah, I've
shorter.
only been there once, but
Well,
be something
and
like
like
that.
in Ballpark Commons, the diamonds, it's the infield that's turf, right? The outfields are natural.
I don't know. I know at the Milkman, the whole thing is
No.
turf.
Barbara, what did you
Well,
take away?
I think it's a very positive and a good thing for the community. And yes, I agree with Mark that they demonstrated that what they're planning to do with bringing in visitors to the area, which of course spills over into hotels and restaurants. As for our involvement in it, I'm not quite sure how involved we want to get in building infrastructure or buildings that way. I think we can certainly support it in some way, but I'm not quite sure what's the best way.
Well, remember though, there was two things. The second group that came in was looking for buildings,
Yes.
and so this was Croatian Park itself. They're putting in new pavilions, new kitchens, a lot of new
Yeah,
buildings.
can you explain it? So it's so that entity, and John was explaining a little bit about this. So that there's the park itself that manages the facilities out there.
Yeah, the Croatian
And they're-
Federation owns the park. They own the ground, and they lease it to soccer club. But that's the relationship there.
So
They're not
it was the
same.
federation that came initially and said, we're doing some upgrades to the facilities and we'd like you to
Well,
participate.
the pavilion is being expanded. They're building new kitchen facilities closer to that. Yeah, I mean, it's total tear down and a larger facility put in. They focused a lot on some of the renovations that would be, and so a lot of it sounded like maintenance, and some is just a remodel, but that's what the building project.
But as I recall, a lot of that was already funded by members of the Croatian entity.
Yes.
They still had 700,000 to go.
Oh, did they? Was it 700,000?
Yes,
Okay.
to go.
But in our discussion, and I agree with Barbara, that fits more in my thought of infrastructure. You know, it'd be like if somebody came and said, "Hey, I want to build a new pickleball court,
Right.
and would you give me all the netting and striping on the turf?" That's infrastructure. But that's where I saw this one for the soccer club as being different, because it's not really infrastructure in that sense. Other than it's a field for them to play.
They're facilities that people come to, they're attracted to.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
if you were to build, at some point, we wanted to build like a convention center. That's a facility that people come into, and
Yeah.
They generate hotel money. But, yeah, it's just whatever you want to get into. Buildings are not something you want to be part of, that's your decision.
Have they made any request, or do they intend to make any request to engage Franklin?
They didn't say anything about engage, and we didn't say anything to them about engage.
I'm not trying to pass the buck, but I'm just,
Well, Engage is, we contracted with Engage and we send the money to promote, to advertise, and to recruit.
So the soccer club leases the facility from the Federation. And so I take it that the soccer club is taking the responsibility of basically like leasehold improvements to their own, to their facility.
Right.
Because they want to be able to do certain things, if I'm hearing this correctly from their presentation and what we've got here.
Yeah.
They want to be able to expand their offerings and be more, I think you said, go later into the season, earlier, because they've got a field that can stand up to.
And they'll draw
harsher
people from
conditions.
a bigger geography.
Yeah. Oh, and then they'd have a pitch then that would allow them to be a regulation field for these tournaments that maybe
Right.
they don't have a chance to track now. Is that
Right.
It's a
what you
better
heard?
track.
yes, that's what I understood.
And they work with 15 hotels when they do this annual Croatian Eagle
Yeah.
soccer.
That's true.
So more would increase those kinds of. The number that they asked for, large, but it's just a little over 4% of the whole project, which
It's, yeah. But that was my follow-up question was, it is a large request. Almost as big as what our initial naming rights was. And I don't know if we have that much money available. That's my follow-up question.
Is this just a one-time request? It's going to be
I thought it was one time. So it's not naming rights in that sense. So it's not a
right, no,
continuing
it's a one-time
thing.
request. You're right, and for that will help the. Okay. Well, let me ask you this. I'm just asking the two of you. If someone comes in the future, then if this is done and we're sort of, and somebody else says, well, I know that you folks got involved with the soccer club and you helped them upgrade their facilities to increase their the potential for tournaments and visitation. So now somebody comes to us, maybe to get a theater venue, and they want to upgrade their stage and their lighting and their sound system, and their argument. This will allow us to attract bigger production that haven't considered Franklin in the past, and more people will come visit. We don't know how many of those people are going to stay overnight, but maybe some will. How will you draw there? Do you view that the same as this? Will you be able to draw a distinction and say, well, now wait a second, that's different than this? You guys argue that a little bit for me? Can we debate that a little bit? What would you say about that? If again,
The challenge is proving the overnight stays. And time for a theater, it's a one night thing. And I don't know that I would necessarily, if I was going to Chicago, I might stay overnight. If I was coming to a high school production, would I stay overnight? Probably not. Well, I would if I was going to see the grandkids, but then I'd probably be visiting, staying with my daughter.
Right.
That's the challenge. How do you quantify the overnight stay? And they've not put in any numbers of how many overnight stays we expect, but they have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12 different states that they claim that they will draw from. And I think if parents are coming from Minneapolis or Minnesota to watch their kids play soccer for a couple days, they're going to stay overnight.
Are they already drawing from these states in the tournaments that they currently have?
Thought that they were.
They draw
I would
from
think
Michigan.
so.
You know, that they got that, and that's a 3-day event.
Already are.
Yeah, the one they talked about was, well, you had it in the minutes from last time.
Yeah.
150 Michigan players, 2 overnight stays with the one tournament. And the Croatian Eagles tournament runs 3 days, up to 1,500 players. But I get what you're saying, Lance, in terms of, you know, a theater. And I was thinking too, of another parallel would be, what if Franklin Little League came to us and said, we want to enhance our fields? I don't even know the answer. Do Franklin Little League play other little leagues from other cities, or is it internal to just Franklin?
I think they do, but I'm not positive. Just judging from some things I see on Facebook, it looks like it's travel.
And I think Barbara brings up a good point that it is infrastructure. I mean, it is improving facilities, right? So there's no doubt about that. You could argue that, I mean, they do outline in here that I think they're going to be able to bring in more tournaments. The reason I pose that question to the two of you is I get this. I'm just, we've been very careful recently to, you know, in decisions be consistent and really come back to our core reason for being. And so that going forward, we're making decisions that are I think anyone from the outside can look at that and go, okay, we know what we can expect. This is just it appears to be a little gray for me as far as the if this was them building for example, a brand new enclosed facility that is now these tournaments never existed. Now they will exist because we're building the equivalent of a indoor sports facility. Do communities all over Wisconsin invest in that and have great success in attracting tournaments and overnight stays? Absolutely. And I can tell you that the something like that would be well received by.
But if they built that on the site of a current soccer field, it would be the same thing. You just improve the facility to provide an attraction that more people are going to come to.
Right. And so that's what there they could definitely be able to say, with this new facility, we are booking, 18 tournaments over the year, never existed before in Franklin. We know they're 2-nighters. We think there will at least be, there's going to be an overnight stay. We get a pretty good idea, because you're right, they have a history in this area of generating room nights, and especially for their major tournament. It's lucrative. I know we opened the doors in the Hampton. We were very, it was on our calendar of events, for the year. So that it is.
I don't know.
Are there any questions to answer? Because Barb has.
Yeah.
So far, what's the international draw, and then what are the overnight stays they forecast?
If they had a good handle on how many overnight stays they have currently, and then how many more tournaments they're going to draw, do an extrapolation there.
Yeah, and more than maybe just we think we can, because they do say here, we know we'll be able to attract, but do you have plans, right? I mean, has someone approached you about a tournament that said, we aren't using your field now, but we would if it was this, and by the way, it would be this big. Hopefully they have something to that effect they can say.
They seem like they have a lot of information. So I think it'd be interesting to see how fast they can respond to those questions.
All right. Yeah, because when I saw the dollar amount, I was like, I just didn't feel comfortable tonight.
Well, and so I was going to ask too, would it be, I'm not advocating pay the whole thing, but could we split a payment into 2 or 3 different payments? Would that work better for us from a budgeting standpoint?
Well, it certainly would help us. I'm still stuck on, the very last comment that they make here is that the entirety of the grant funding will be placed against the cost of the turf. I mean, that's where they want to get, period. And I guess I'm just not real comfortable with that. I have no problem funding something, putting our name on something, if we can, but I'm not sure if I just want to.
Actually, the way I read that is they're saying that would be placed against the purchase installation cost of the turf field. It sounds like they're going to build everything else first, and then once they got the money from us, they would put turf in.
They're going to put turf in anyway.
I know that,
Yeah.
but that's
Yes.
I took what they said there as indicative of the timing of when they needed the funds.
Yeah, I mean, they're looking at, getting started in March on the construction.
Yeah, and I think part of what they're looking for is there any level of commitment that we could make to them so that they could go ahead and get started with the rest of it?
They're going to do this with or without us, don't you think?
I think they are.
Yeah, I think so too. Just a matter of where they get their money from
Yeah.
And when?
and up to what level.
They're not gonna move ahead until it. That's what,
Right. Well, John, do you feel like you have we have a few valid questions that
Yeah.
would help us? Because I just don't
Got
think,
questions?
sensing that there's not going to be a decision made.
And I do think Engage ought to be engaged in this discussion somehow, I think. And Mark, you can decide to bring it to the board if you want to, I'm not sure.
I think that, like John said, Engage is going to think that they're more marketing and promotion and stuff. I think they think of us as not only giving them money, but our main thing is to promote overnight stays. Their main thing is to promote tourism in general. So there is some overlap.
In fairness to Barbara, because she's going here, can we talk about the Franklin Lifestyle publication? And
Yes, we could. I guess my question is, well, we had the presentation by Barb Capriel, and she gave us information. And I guess my question is, like, who needs to take the next step to make this happen and to get all of the various sponsors that she's looking for?
Yeah.
Does she do that? Do we do that? I mean, if we just said, oh yeah, we'll be one of them, then are we supposed to be doing all of the rest of the solicitation of the contribution?
what I had in my notes is we identified as,
We simply identify as sponsors.
yeah, we identified sponsors. Supposed to be one of them, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it Engage?
Right,
That discussion needs to be held with Engage as to what roles everybody plays,
exactly.
because I don't have the capacity to develop editorial.
Yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely, right.
understood.
This is why we have this agreement with Engage. Barbara, my feeling on this, I feel like we're kind of going back and forth, and I certainly want Franklin Lifestyle Publications to have an answer. I just truly believe if there was ever a definition of an activity that belongs with Engage Franklin, I just see this as it, because it is this, it really is about the community, it promotes the community. Engage Franklin does have this mission that, yes, the monies we're giving them are for, overnight, for attracting overnight stays.
Mm-hmm.
This is more right up that alley of community focus.
Right.
I would love them to just pick it up and do it. And, it's not that big of a commitment, and in their overall, it just seems like they could do the content, they could work with her, they could identify other sponsors from their asset base, strengthen their relationship with the community.
Mm-hmm.
This is the kind of work that this volunteer commission doesn't have the time or the resources to handle effectively, and yet Engage Franklin seems like they do.
I totally agree.
I would be, again, I know she's made the presentations here and it sort of landed here with us. I'd really like to see her working with Brandon.
And that's the way I left it when I talked to them on Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
So is there any way we can, maybe to take this our agenda, is there any way we can do that handoff and really, as a commission, say, hey, Franklin, you really should. This seems like it.
I can tell them that we're deferring that to Engage,
Yeah.
and then ask Brandon to set up a meeting with
Yes, I think.
them. And I think she'd be anxious to do that, as long as there's positive direction.
And I think they're going to be seeing their funding. Now, of course, they're going to get a funding, an allocation here from the second quarter, I think it is. Third quarter is ready, right?
That has to be approved.
Right, so we'll approve that. Second quarter, third quarter is coming right around then, and then we go to the 70-30, and especially Neil is on board with monthly, just as it trickles in, saying we collected, $5,000, we'll split it 70-30. That's phenomenal. I mean, I'm used to quarterly, but I mean, if you get the in line here, I think they'll have more funding up front, I guess is what I'm saying, so that you can handle the payment.
So in light of Barbara's schedule, maybe we should advance that agenda item.
I'll give you another 5 minutes.
Okay, do we, and if we advance it to the next meeting?
No, I mean,
Or,
I'm talking about the agenda item.
Approve the vouchers.
I got it, yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then we can
I would agree. And real quick, do we have anything more to talk about, Franklin, last time?
No, I think if it's in the hands of Engage, I think that's where it belongs.
Yeah, and I'll
You'll make it
I'll
in.
refer to Brandon.
Perfect. All right, so we're gonna skip new business, we'll get the voucher approvals, right? And so we have, I think the only voucher to approve then is the payment voucher, right, to Engage Franklin? And it's for, the city's identified, 86,000, right, 426?
Well, the amount owed is 64,819.
Right, but they've identified the amount,
Revenues.
total was 86, right? And 75% of that's gonna be 4,000.
Right, yeah, I
819.
think that amount, what came into tourism.
Yeah, we got the 86 and we're turning around paying out the 64, right?
Yep, yes,
This
sir.
is for Q2.
Yes.
Yes. So, motion,
I so move.
move that we pay the voucher, $60,019.99. Engage Franklin, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mark. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Voucher approved. Can I sign this copy tonight? And
Yes, you may.
Okay, perfect. I'll do that, but again, in the interest of, so Barbara, you're,
If you want to back up to new business,
Yeah.
because this is really old business. I just wanted to give you, I made a few copies of the program that was passed out at the event at the library
oh, yes,
that you were
yeah,
sponsors.
yes. Thank you.
And yes, I made sure that the Franklin Tourism Commission, in my introduction, got credit, and I tried to explain what we do. Hopefully that worked. And then also Jennifer put together a very nice summary of what the money raised will be actually used for. There you go. I don't have the numbers yet as to how much we actually raised because Jennifer was on vacation all of last week, but I think we did well. And so there are some really wonderful things coming ahead for the children's area, and they really need to remodel and redo that. And for any of you who know the library, the tree is staying. If you've ever been in the library,
I have.
yeah, that tree is not going anywhere. That is just sacred to every
Okay.
kid who's ever sat in it, I guess. So anyway, so thank you very much to the Tourism Commission for their sponsorship.
Great.
It's much appreciated.
And maybe we go on to, is the next meeting of November 20th, does that work for everyone?
Works for me.
That's question up again.
Yeah.
I mean,
Thanks.
travel's not too far away, but
And we need to present on the 6th of November to the council what our budget is. So it's,
which we have, right?
Yeah.
So it's just,
yeah, we have, and we did it, and it's in their actual budget now accurately. So probably just a pro forma type of thing, but it is required by legislation. A little late as it.
so we can, I mean, John and I went to the last one, but
Right.
the more the merrier, I suppose, right? We can
Yeah.
have members there, so. 6th.
Yep.
And the 20th is okay, Mark, you think?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll go with the 20th at 6 p.m. And Barbara, thank you.
You're very well.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
and
Still need to celebrate it.
enjoy it. Yeah, I was going to say. You look like you're ready to
I'm
celebrate.
ready to celebrate.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being accommodating here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Have a good night.
Have a great evening.
Yeah.
Thanks, will do.
So when it comes to business, where I
We don't have any.
have
don't have
any
any.
business, so I think right along.
We can have some next time. And we lost quorum, so we're no longer official anymore.
That's right. So I think that'd be appropriate to the next item.
You can declare adjournment.
I'm going to declare adjournment.
Okay.
All right.